mountains of Alaska, vast, untamed, and dangerous. A place of predators, both beast and man.
People expect the beauty and the danger of Alaska, but nobody expects the dark mind of a killer in their midst.
We're dealing with a sociopath, there's no doubt about it.
Definitely somebody that has ice in their veins. He was on the hunt.
If he robbed you, you're gonna die. He's your worst nightmare.
I remember coming home one day and just crying out, God, why?
Long winters blanket southern Alaska with what seems like endless ice and snow. It's a harsh place, but it's the kind of harsh some people gravitate to.
They want to be left alone. They want to be away from society. They want to be isolated.
So Alaska builds character. If you have a good character, it builds a good character. If you have a bad character, it brings out the dark side.
A dark side that can remain hidden in the snowy isolation. Alaska's most prolific serial killer was Robert Hansen, a monster who hid in plain sight, hunting humans across the secluded terrain for 12 years.
A state like Alaska attracts individuals who have had problems in their lives because they're able to go there and begin a new life. It also helps a killer. I'm not saying it attracts killers, but it helps killers.
Hansen confessed to 17 murders, but is thought to be responsible for many, many more.
He enjoys the complete helplessness of his victims. They're totally under his control.
Now there's a new serial killer hiding in the deep snow.
It's a great place to hide out. You're out of the mainstream. It's a place to lie low.
Tucked away in Alaska's interior, evil hibernates, waiting until a springtime bloodlust pulls him south to strike across the lower 48. In 1986, in Lodi, California, Robert and Dagmar Linton have no reason to suspect that wickedness has awakened from a long winter's nap.
They were very much in love with each other. They both worked for the city of Lodi. They would have lunch together out behind City Hall.
Married 41 years, they began as high school sweethearts.
My dad was a couple years older than my mom, and so he was a couple of years ahead of her in school. But I think my dad was the heartthrob. I remember Mom mentioning once that a lot of girls were interested in him, but she won. My parents were very lovey-dovey. It was special to be around them because you knew that they loved each other and enjoyed each other.
Newly retired, the pair plans the vacation of a lifetime. A camping trip north through America's beautiful and remote Northwest.
We used to go camping as a family all the time. So camping was a thing that we grew up doing with a tent, and that just seemed a natural thing for them to do on their trip, was to pull their trailer and head out for 3 months.
They were friendly. You go camping, you meet other RVers, and there's a camaraderie between them that they're enjoying life, and they meet new people and enjoy going out. So they were excited to do that.
We'll see you, Dad. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Good while we're gone, okay? Drive careful.
Bye-bye.
Mom was very methodical. She planned everything, I think, right down to the nth degree. And she'd call every Saturday and say, hey, we're gonna be in this town next week. Send our mail here.
See ya.
Be careful. Love you.
The couple plans to reach Vancouver, Canada in time for the World's Fair, and then head home before winter reclaims its icy grip on the region. Dagmar tempers her excitement with a touch of foreboding.
Just before they left, she ended up having their wills updated in case something would have happened. It seems like she must have had a premonition of I'm not coming home.
Before crossing into Canada, the Lintons stop in Brennan, Washington. And set up a home base for a week of sightseeing day trips.
Where are you headed after here?
I think we're gonna probably head back down home. We have 3 youngsters at home.
We love it out here then.
They had pulled into this campground, met the neighbors, and made arrangements to get together the next day, just be friendly, and went off to do some sightseeing.
Great to meet you. Great to meet you. I'm sure you will. Thank you.
Good night.
Oh, Lord. A nice couple.
Very nice.
Well, what do you think? Should we turn in?
Though Dagmar plans to call every few nights,
Ready?
the calls stop coming.
It was a week or something. I get a call from my brother. Have you heard from Mom? No, I didn't. I missed the last call. And, you know, I'm not really worried about it because they're traveling. You know, maybe they can't find a phone.
And then, you know, one day, mail got returned. And I didn't think too much about it. But when the next week's mail came back, that's when I started getting concerned.
Their parents' new friends in the neighboring RV are worried too.
They had notified the administration at the camp that, geez, these people were going to be back and they haven't gotten back. There might be something wrong. Well, it really wasn't anybody's responsibility, I guess, at that point. Nobody really knew what they should do. They had a policy, you know, you haven't paid your bill for 2 weeks, they'll notify the authorities to come and take care of the issue.
The campground contacts the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.
The complaint came in to dispatch that there was a trailer in NACO West Campground. They'd only paid up for a day or so, and they were way past that.
Chief Criminal Deputy Pete Pacini arrives to investigate.
There were still personal items, you know, dishes, silverware, and stuff like that, sitting out. It looked like they were leaving for a little while and coming back.
Only the Lintons and their truck are missing, like they went off for a day trip. That was 2 weeks ago.
You could see no doors, cupboards open. Nobody had been in there scouring through the place. There were no notes or anything left, but the only thing we saw was an itinerary, and it gave their whole trip where they were going to stop. And from what we could see, they were following that itinerary religiously.
The sheriff's office contacts Richard Linton.
And they said, did your folks come home? Or did they fly home? Or did they decide to take a side trip? Or do you know anything about them? I go, no.
I said, wait a minute, these folks, you know, they're either up on the mountain or they fell into the creek or something. We didn't have any idea, but we knew that it sure didn't look good.
Something's not right, and that was the beginning of a day-by-day relationship with Pete Pacini. He would call to see if I'd heard anything new, and I'd call to see if he'd heard.
Washington authorities issue an all-points bulletin for their truck and start to track their credit cards. The trace reveals that the day after the Lintons disappeared, someone used the couple's credit card to buy a movie and gasoline 125 miles from the campsite.
That's all you have to go on. You're working at the disadvantage because he's always ahead of you and you don't know exactly where he's going.
Over the next 3 weeks, Pacini chases a ghost on a peculiar spending spree.
I do remember Richard calling and saying a purchase was made with a credit card buying women's shoes. What size shoe did Mom wear? She had a shoe fetish. But you know, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, why would she be buying shoes? And if she's buying shoes, why hasn't she called? So we had several of these roller coaster instances where there would be some tidbit that makes you think, well, maybe there's still some hope. But deep down inside, I think we knew that there was something bad had happened.
He snapped up a crock pot, men's underwear, school supplies, and a clarinet.
The stuff this guy was getting was just strange, you know. Whoa, what's up here? You know, this is a Mom and Pa Kettle setting themselves up, you know, and housekeeping. It didn't make sense.
The thief hits a snag when he returns to an Oregon coin shop to try to buy a rare gold peso.
Well, you know what? I was taking a look at that gold peso right there. I just bought one, just like it.
He bought one, paid $500 for it, and the credit card was just about maxed out, so he couldn't buy the second one.
I'm sorry, sir, your card has been declined.
Oh.
The shop owner describes the customer as 6'4", with a gap between his teeth, a bandage on his right arm, and a thick Southern accent. The sharp-eyed clerk notices one inconsistency: the customer's signature.
My father was left-handed, and so he would sign my father's name with his right hand, and his explanation was he hurt his arm, and that's why he was signing his name right-handed, and they didn't match.
The mystery man remains a step ahead by using a fake ID, with his photo paired with Lintons' name.
This guy, whoever it is, has got these people, and this guy's in the wind, and I believe he's going east across the country.
Pacini asks the bank to keep the credit card active, hoping to catch up to the man, and hopefully the Lintons. The activity's sporadic, and the reports are always too late. A month after the Lintons vanish, Deputy Pacini finally gets a break when security at the Seattle-Tacoma airport spots the couple's truck abandoned in long-term parking. It looks like it's been scrubbed.
Got looking between the bed and the cab, and I got a flashlight on it, and I could see what looked like rust, but it wasn't rust. So I just got down under the truck and got my knife out, pocket knife out, and did a little bit of scraping, and sheets of blood came down off there. Something pretty violent had happened back there.
Police now suspect the worst. This case might have gone from missing persons to murder.
I remember coming home one day when nobody was home and just crying out, God, why?
Yeah, hop in. Put your seatbelt on.
Well, what do you think?
Robert and Dagmar Linton's Northwest adventure comes to a chilling end when the couple mysteriously vanishes. Chief Criminal Deputy Pete Pacini finds an ominous sign: blood in their abandoned truck. Tests reveal 3 blood types. 2 match the Lintons. The third might be from an abductor.
There's just this whole mystery. Where could they be? Are we ever going to find them? Then after we find the cards being used, okay, now there's a person involved that must have done something to my folks.
Whoever he is, he keeps using the Lintons' credit card. And Pacini tracks every purchase.
You could just start getting a feel for where this was going. We were starting to draw up on him.
Then the press picks up the story.
I've got a hold of one of the lead reporters on it and asked them to hold this, if you will. Don't put it out. We are so close. I think we may be able to do something in a day, maybe 2.
But if it bleeds, it leads.
Robert Linton and his wife.
The reporter runs the story anyway.
Going on a vacation trip with families. The Lintons are missing. All that remains is their travel trailer. This disappearance has everyone worried.
News crews swarm the RV park where the Lintons left their camper and broadcast details of the elderly couple's disappearance.
Everything stopped. That was the end of it. He was probably watching the tube when it flashed on their tube. He knew, oh, it's time to be out of here. We had so many loose ends. I mean, all our ends were loose. There wasn't a conclusion to none of them other than the credit cards being used.
But preparing for the worst.
It's a devastating blow, but Deputy Pacini refuses to give up.
Where did they meet the guy? Where did they die? We couldn't tie a knot on the end of anything.
Now the credit card trail grows ice cold. It's as if whoever grabbed the Lintons has vanished.
Grizzly bears and our black bears and everything, they all go into hibernation too in the winter. So I maybe followed along with that thinking, except that the bears have honor and he did not.
Where does this evil rest?
With the right resources in Alaska, it's easy to disappear. It's easy to isolate yourself. You get heavy snowfalls in the winter that you can kind of hibernate in a cabin with. Then when you do come out, usually you're needing some action.
4 heartbreaking years pass.
It was a big thing, splashed front page news, family missing. Every time I turned around, somebody was asking, you know, what have you heard lately? What's going on? It's a real bewildering experience.
And it's like, what if they show up next month? In the back of my mind, I kept thinking they'll come back.
Deputy Pacini is determined to find the missing couple.
Every teletype that ever come out from any agency, anything about big guys, 6'4", I would check it out, call that agency and talk to them. One day, a teletype comes through from Murray, Utah. They have had this coin dealer who was shot.
The deputy learns that in May 1990, coin shop owner Kelly Finnegan met a friendly Texan who said his name was Jim Stockton.
He basically just kind of befriended himself with Kelly and other people in the store, other customers, in fact.
The charming stranger with the gap in his teeth stopped in several times over a few days.
He would show up at different times of the day. Kelly felt so comfortable with him that he was buzzing them in without a problem.
Only one thing struck Kelly as strange.
Kelly never saw him just park right up in front like everybody else normally did. You know, there was a few parking spaces right in front of the store, and through the big windows he could see who was coming. But he never saw this guy in a vehicle.
On May 4th, the same man came by around closing time,
Good deal. Well, I'm just gonna take us back to sleep.
saying he was waiting for his wife to pick him up.
If you need anything, man, just let me know. All right, sounds good. Hey, where's your restroom at?
Yeah, it's right down the corridor.
Okay. I'll be right back. Thank you.
The restroom is usually just for employees, but and it's locked up. And but Kelly said, yeah, he felt comfortable with him being there, and said, go ahead and let him in.
Moments later, a monster emerged with a silenced .22.
The suspect grabbed a curtain that was in the store and pulled it off the wall and laid it over the top of Kelly, I think just to hide him from view, because the front of the store just had big windows. But he was walking around the store and stepping over Kelly, going to the safe, picking items out of the safe, putting them in a box. He was just kind of grunting and moaning and almost like animalistic noises.
You stupid bastard, I fooled you.
He made off with $70,000 in gold and jewelry. Amazingly, his victim survived. After playing dead, a wounded Kelly Finnegan hit the alarm. EMTs rushed him to a hospital.
Turned out that they didn't actually penetrate his skull at all, that it just went under the skin. It was just a miracle that he actually survived that shooting.
Investigators gathered fingerprints and fragments from a .22 caliber bullet lodged in the ceiling, but no shell casing.
Our original belief, because we couldn't find that casing, was that he must have picked it up and taken it with him. This guy definitely had a sophistication to him. He was smarter than the average guy.
Police determined Jim Stockton is a fake name.
So somebody to actually act that way and then turn around and shoot you is definitely somebody that has ice in their veins. He was on the hunt. This was a planned out crime that, he had a reason for it.
And now he's vanished.
We were still concerned about where is this suspect at? Where did he go? Nobody else saw the suspect leave the store, and no car description for a getaway vehicle or anything. We just didn't have enough information on how to find this guy.
Deputy Pete Pacini recalls a gap-toothed man with a southern accent used the Lintons credit card at a coin shop.
It was a 50 peso gold coin, not at all like you normally see with people who steal credit cards. This was entirely different.
After so long, has Pacini picked up the trail again?
And this one brought a gut feeling all of a sudden of saying, this is my guy. This is my guy, I know it's my guy. Like sometimes you get a premonition on something, the hair goes up in the back of your neck and you say, this is it. This was the most solid lead I'd ever had in the 4 years.
By now, Pacini's sure the Lintons have been killed.
I think he's done away with these people somehow or another. Why and where? What's going to go next? How is this guy operating?
The next lead about the mysterious shooter comes 2 months later. And 600 miles away in the wide open spaces of Billings, Montana.
He doesn't stay in one area. He trip-traps all over the country. He's all over the place.
And this time, there are no survivors. Chief Criminal Deputy Pete Pacini believes an elusive gunman murdered Robert and Dagmar Linton in Washington State just to rob them.
You don't think it's happening to you. This can't happen to me. This only happens in the movies. Only this is real life. It's not the movies.
Pacini thinks the man who attacked the Lintons also shot a coin shop dealer in Murray, Utah. He learns about a similar case in Billings, Montana. A gap-toothed man befriended a coin dealer, visiting his shop several times. The man said his name was Charles Horton. He's a farmer from Texas, looking to buy a lot of gold.
Gentlemen, how we doing? Here to check out some of your fine jewelry and coins?
He's a very cold, calculating individual. And yet on the surface, got that good old boy, that Texas accent. He's disarming.
This is my son. How you doing? How are you? I'm pretty good.
He's a talker, like a used car salesman. They're smooth. They like to make you comfortable with them.
So obviously part of this guy's MO was building a rapport with these people, trying to gain their trust and put them in a situation where he would be, able to catch them off guard.
Something about him didn't sit right with the dealer.
He had a scar across one of his hands, but he didn't have the hands of a farmer. They were the hands of a banker.
That's not all the coin dealer observed.
He was driving a silver Pontiac, a silver Bonneville Pontiac, and he would never park it in front of the shop. He would always park it down the street and then walk into the shop.
On the buyer's third visit, the friendliness was gone.
Come on in. Take a look around. See if there's anything that interests you today.
Well, I think today's your lucky day, because I'd like to buy about 30 grand worth of gold and silver if you got it.
Well, let me get into the safe here.
The coin dealer expected to sell some gold.
Here you go, my friend.
But ended up taking lead. The store's secretary hadn't heard the shot, muffled by the silencer.
Major crime in Billings just wasn't a thing that happened. So when there was something like this, it was a big deal for sure.
This is not a snatch and grab. This is shooting a person and going through his safe, his display cases, whatever he has on him, and taking whatever you want.
And this isn't something you have to drive away. This is something you can carry off in a little bag. So you're talking walking down the street carrying $100,000, $150,000 with no problem. He made a lot of money real fast.
And he made sure there were no survivors.
He knew what he was doing, for better or for worse. He had planned this out, and he knew, that he could do it and get away.
The owner's son tells police about Charles Horton, but they determine it's also a fake name. Montana authorities alert law enforcement across the country.
The robbery was similar to ours, where the owner was shot in the head with a .22, and he kind of befriended these people. I thought, this is our big break.
He used a different name each time, but the gap-toothed grin and the friendly drawl are the same. Just like the man Pacini thinks killed the Lintons. Investigators realize a madman is prowling the country. Since all they have are aliases, they dub him the Coin Shop Killer.
You can read teletypes forever about credit card theft, but the people who were killing coin dealers, well, that was out of the ordinary.
Checking records, investigators find 3 other coin dealers killed by a .22 caliber over the past few years. In March 1988, he took down a coin shop owner in Kansas City, Missouri. In July 1987, he slayed a Spokane, Washington coin shop owner just after closing time. And in November 1986, the body of a Vacaville, California coin shop owner turned up in a creek bed with a single gunshot wound to the head. All 3 unsolved for too long.
You have a family that's been totally disrupted. It becomes very personal, even though they tell you not to let it become personal. But it does, because you wonder if there's something you're not doing or that you are doing that's not allowing you to solve this case.
There's no question, it's always the same guy.
It was very noticeable. The Texas drawl and the gap-toothed grin were the big identifiable pieces.
He kills just to kill. He doesn't kill because he has to. He kills because he wants to. Once he gets it in his blood and gets away with it, and he's got the power of God in his hand. He shoots and kills the person in the face when you're 2 feet away from him. That's a cold person.
He goes by a long list of fake names and only seems to strike in the summer. He murders, then retreats. Murders, then retreats.
It almost was like a hibernation, period of time where he just would go dormant and then nothing for several months. And then all of a sudden another crime would occur.
I'm curious to know why he chose my parents. Was it because they were helpful, or was it because they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time?
There's no continuity. There's nothing that pulls everything together. He's a pretty smart criminal in terms of covering his tracks.
Fingerprints left behind are not in any agency's database. Deputy Pete Pacini thinks he's also the one who abducted and likely murdered Robert and Dagmar Linton and tried to use their credit cards to buy coins.
Here, check that out.
Whoa, where'd you get it?
I just found it at a jewelry store on my business trip. Thought you might like it.
Wow, really? For me?
It's genuine, and it's all yours. That's a real fine cut.
We were definitely dealing with a sociopath, there's no doubt about it.
Thanks, Dad.
He was getting some sort of thrill out of killing the people he was killing.
Authorities struggle to hunt him down before he strikes again.
But we don't know how he existed or where he existed. The key for him was movement. He'd commit a crime and then leave. It just disappeared.
Like a truly abominable snowman, he seems impossible to track. Only this killer is absolutely real. And when spring comes, he'll resume his hunt. Authorities track a serial killer who changes names like the seasons. They believe he killed Robert and Dagmar Linton in Washington and coin shop dealers in 6 other states.
I can't even fathom how someone would be able to do that, just shoot somebody in the head unprovoked. So even though you deal with this stuff all the time as a police officer, you never can wrap your mind around someone having the intense hate.
After each slaying, he vanishes for the winter.
When a bear first wakes up from hibernation, his instincts are to eat. He's ravenous hungry. He's going to go out to kill. But bears don't attack for malicious intent. Human predators are what you have to watch out for.
Now, for sure, there was an urgency to try to locate this guy, even more so because we didn't want it to happen to another victim somewhere else.
Then a tipster calls Montana police, saying he saw a suspicious man drive away after the murders in Billings. He wrote down the license plate.
And that really leads them to okay, we've got the license plate, we've got a good description, and things start, rolling.
Running the plate, they learn the silver Pontiac is registered to a man named Larry Ulrich, and they get an address in Wyoming.
We had a real good lead at that point that now we knew exactly where we were looking and who we were looking for.
So they went to that particular address, but they didn't find anything.
Turns out it's a fake address. Larry Ulrich is still one step ahead of the authorities.
Then they started to look for the car individually.
The next day, police spot an abandoned car at the airport in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Although Ulrich tried to disguise it, it's his.
The front of the car is covered with bugs. The license plate, though, is clean. It doesn't have any bugs on it. It's the same car, different license plate.
Inside, authorities find Ulrich's registration, coin wrappings from the Montana shop, and a .22 caliber handgun with a silencer. The clip's missing 3 rounds, likely the 3 shots that killed the Montana coin dealer and his secretary. In Washington, Chief Criminal Deputy Pete Pacini runs the new name through his state's databases. He finds an old driver's license with an address in Deming, Washington, just 60 miles from where the Lintons credit card was used. Pacini also learns Ulrich once had 2 children registered in Deming schools.
That was one of the aha moments. I was able to get a hold of the principal of the high school and talk to him, and he remembered the family. He believed that they had left and had gone to Alaska.
The principal recalls the family put things in storage before heading north. And he mentions a seemingly insignificant detail.
He remembered the daughter played in the band, and he said, in fact, it was the only B-flat clarinet in the band.
Pacini's suspect used the Lintons credit card to buy a similar clarinet. The deputy gets a search warrant for the storage units and unlocks a killer's secrets.
We walked in and we looked at it, it was mountainous. The place was jam-packed full of everything. There was this B-flat Bundy clarinet with the serial numbers scraped off it. But there it was. And then there was a bag, and in the bag is brand new underwear. These are the only things I just heard about. I'm holding them now. Whoa. I mean, that was just like someone came in, just won the lottery.
Airline personnel in Jackson Hole confirm Larry Ulrich flew from Wyoming to Anchorage 2 days after the Montana murders.
A lot of people think that they can go to Alaska and disappear, and because it's such an unknown, and go out into the wilderness and somebody might not find you for a long time.
Again, you're off the grid, you're out of the mainstream. It's a place to lie low. Perhaps he's planning what he's going to do next. Perhaps he's just making sure that the trail grows cold from what previous act he committed.
Alaska state troopers track Ulrich to a cabin in remote Kenny Lake, where he lives with his family. The village is 90 miles outside Valdez, Alaska, tucked between the mighty Copper River and the majestic Wrangell Mountains. Its snow-packed pines offer the perfect place to hide.
It's a small community, and you could escape there for sure. I think the area is pretty spread out, so you could live off the grid somewhat, but you still have that connection to the road system, so you can go to various places.
Kenny Lake is so remote that there's even a lot of Alaskans that don't know where it is. It's not a place somebody can stumble upon or come to accidentally. There's a lot of outlying areas that people can disappear, they can hide.
Now that they know where the alleged serial killer is, authorities need to take him down. SWAT teams from several agencies converge on the Alaskan hinterlands.
He was a gun nut. I mean, he was going to go down big time with this thing, and he had nothing to lose to shoot it out.
A multi-state task force deploys to capture a serial predator holed up in the remote Alaskan hamlet of Kenny Lake. On August 13, 1990, a SWAT team swarms Larry Ulrich's property, preparing for an all-out assault. As dawn breaks, authorities determine the best way to take him down is to lure him out and away from his gun stash.
Hello? This is he.
They call him at the house and say that they had
Yes, sir.
papers on an unrelated matter to serve on him. And could he come down to a store that was located a short distance from the house called Kenny Lake Mercantile?
Yeah, I can be there in 10 minutes. All right, thank you.
Who was that, Dad?
I gotta run down to sign some paperwork.
He's coming out, headed to the car. He's on the move.
We immediately got into our vehicles and got ready to jump behind him, follow him, make the traffic stop.
Ulrich pulls off the road and right into their trap.
engine out of the truck, now! Now! Don't do anything stupid! Turn off the truck! Out! Now!
As soon as he turned into the turnout, there was probably 8 or 9 members, jumped out and swarmed the vehicle.
Out of the truck! Hands up! Hands up!
Alaska state troopers arrest him for the murders of the Montana coin shop owner and his secretary, as well as the attempted murder of Kelly Finnegan.
He was pretty stoic. He knew his rights. He smiled and he gave the old Texas drawl and the good old boy routine.
What's going on?
After the arrest, police descend on his cabin.
Would you just wait for him to come back?
They're met by his panicked wife.
Why are you guys here?
Settle down.
They recover several guns and a travel bag from his most recent trip south. Among its contents, a gold-engraved pocket watch stolen from Kelly Finnegan's shop. His wife swears she knows nothing of his crime spree.
When put to some of the tighter questions, she backed off. And she backed off by saying, I don't know. He would never tell me what he did. That he would go his own way and he would travel a lot, but I don't know what he did.
But the story takes a bizarre turn. Authorities realize the man they have in custody is not Larry Ulrich when they find a report of a man with that name who has a police record in New Mexico.
And so we got a hold of a lieutenant in Hobbs, New Mexico, and talked to him. Very familiar with this guy.
The lieutenant shows the real Larry Ulrich a photo of the man in custody in Alaska. He recognizes his old buddy, whose name is Charles Sinclair.
They were friends at one time and knew each other, and I was a classmate. He just stole his identity.
Police learned Sinclair once owned a store in New Mexico, stocked with coins, antiques, and guns. In 1985, the shop mysteriously burned to the ground. They believe Sinclair torched the place, collected the insurance, and skipped town.
The family all changed their names when they left Hobbs, New Mexico in the dead of night.
Family just went along with it, never questioned him about it, and whatever he said went, as far as they were concerned.
Sinclair settled his newly minted Ulrich family in remote Deming, Washington, not far from Robert and Dagmar Lintons' campsite. Chief Criminal Deputy Pete Pacini finally gets the long-awaited news of an arrest.
Total relief for me. Just total relief. This is it. This is so good. He's not out killing people anymore.
Pacini races to Alaska to get handwriting and DNA samples from his prime suspect. It gives him the chance to get face-to-face with a sociopath.
We got you.
And to this day, and I've always said it and I'll still say it, if you've ever seen a rattlesnake on a hot rock, eye level with you, that was Charlie Sinclair to me. You read about these people, say, well, God, what kind of people are they? And then all of a sudden you're face to face with one. It's just kind of flabbergasting. I can't believe this person looks like me. He's got arms and legs and eyes. There's nothing different than any other person. He doesn't have horns. He doesn't have scales. It depicts the type of a monster these type of people are.
Despite Pacini's best efforts, Sinclair never admits to killing the Lintons.
Something to say?
But tests show Sinclair's blood type matches the sample found in the Lintons' truck. Though Robert and Dagmar's bodies are never found, police are confident Sinclair killed the couple, as well as 9 others at various coin shops. Yet money doesn't seem to be the motive.
But was he doing it to remove witnesses? Was his main impetus taking all this money, or was it the killing?
Sinclair has almost no cash in his bank account and a stockpile of coins worth over $700,000.
He wrote bad checks when he was living in Deming. So he wasn't turning this stuff into cash.
He might have had a very difficult time trying to unload these rare coins that he stole from these coin shops across the country. If you were going to sell them to a collector, I think a collector would know right away that something's amiss and that may give you away. So I'm sure he didn't want to have this stuff in his cabin or wherever he would be living at the time. So have it off the premises. Have it in a storage shed. That's probably what he felt would keep him safe and keep him from being linked to some of these crimes.
It wasn't like they were in a rich castle up in Alaska. You know, they were in a remote cabin that had a stove in the middle of it. It was the killings, I think, that he thrived on.
Before Charles Sinclair can go to trial, he overdoses on medications and dies in jail.
He's like all the rest of them type of people. When it comes down to it, they're gutless on their own right. It's easy to have a gun and point it at somebody, but now he had the gun pointed at him, he couldn't handle that. So he took the gutless way out.
No one will ever know what went through Charles Sinclair's mind or what made his murderous heart so cold.
The only person who truly knows all of the death and destruction he did took that information to the grave.
It's justice enough for the Lintons' surviving children.
And he brought himself to his own justice. I mean, he met his maker. He met the Philo judge. Real quick, you know, man's justice, man's judge will have a 2x4, and God will come in with the 4x4.
I believe that they're in heaven watching over us, and they're waiting. They're waiting for when it's our turn. And we'll see them again.
In the icy extremes of Colorado, evil takes many forms.
It's abject terror.
He's gonna kill me, please, come on.
No one's ever prepared to be in a car chase with people shooting at you.
After the viciousness of her attack, she's not going to do well out in the wilderness.
A horrific assault that's almost unimaginable, except that it's so familiar.
This is somebody who's done this before. It really started feeling like more of a serial killer.
The key to these crimes, a clue hidden in the ice.
We were just hungry to find out what was going to be the next bizarre twist in this weird story.
It's like having a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and they're not even on the table. They're scattered throughout the room, and you got to go find them and bring them up to the table.
February 1994. Thick, wet snow blankets Colorado's Rocky Mountains. It smothers the jagged peaks and creeps down to bury Denver and its suburbs below.
High altitude and high mountains make their own weather. It can change in a moment's notice. It can catch a person unaware and can lead its own dangers.
Dangers that cause people to go missing at an eerily high rate.
Sometimes the weather comes in over the mountains and you're not prepared for it because no one can predict it. We've had lots of people who've lost their lives on a hike who got stuck on a mountaintop somewhere. Colorado the landscape here is just very dangerous.
North of Denver is Thornton, a mountain town surrounded by ski slopes. At 5:45 in the morning, 30-year-old Jackie Criazzo carefully navigates a slick interstate off-ramp, planning her escape from Thornton's blistering cold.
She gets up that morning and is on her way to get her father, to go to the airport, to go spend time in Las Vegas.
On the side of the road, she sees what she thinks is a stranded driver.
She saw a small blonde figure that appeared to be in distress, arms waving. She thought that the person was in some kind of trouble.
Please let me in. He's gonna kill me, please. Please go. Go. Please go.
She thinks to herself, I've got to do something here because this hysterical woman thinks this man is going to kill her, which means I'm in danger as well.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. What time is it? 5:58.
You just raped me for over 2 hours.
Oh my God. I'm gonna get you someplace safe. I promise.
Her terror level is out of sight. She's been horribly abused. She's been abducted in the middle of the night. She's been brutalized for a couple of hours. She's hysterical, completely out of control.
Jackie heads for the Thornton Police Department, only 3 miles away. But trouble's closing fast.
Please, go. He's right there. He's gonna kill me.
They were driving for their lives. Jackie had no idea who this guy was that was following them, and he had no fear.
Jackie goes from, I want to help somebody, to, oh my God, in that quick.
Jackie's speeding tires spin helplessly on the black ice. The sedan keeps gaining. They're almost at the police station. Out of nowhere, gunshots.
Totally like a Hollywood movie. The shots just keep coming.
Jackie is hit. She loses control of her lower extremities, and she can't do anything with the car. The most she can do is just grab the wheel, and she's holding it really tight, and she's trying to steer it, trying to guide the car.
Jackie plows across the median and into a snowbank, 100 yards from the police department.
Talk about reality television. This was reality. This was reality.
They've made it to the station, but not to safety. The snow muffles the sound of the crash. The cops hear nothing. The shooter closes in. There's nowhere to run. The gunman returns to finish off Jackie.
Jackie is sure that she's going to die, that this is the last face she'll ever see.
How'd you feel to die?
He's out of bullets.
She said she'd never forget that stone-cold stare. What a thing to have happened in barely 10 minutes, from stopping to assist a fellow traveler to thinking you're gonna die. Can't fathom it. Can't fathom it.
The gunman has reclaimed his victim. Help arrives moments later. An officer takes Jackie's barely coherent story.
The information that we're getting from Jackie on scene, talking about a rape and everything that had happened and shots being fired, we still don't even know who the victim is. It's not making any sense.
Why would the kidnapper release his victim, only to chase her down again?
something that in his mind made him feel confident enough that he was going to let her go and then he wasn't going to get into trouble. And then something clicked once she got picked up that he made a mistake and he needed to remedy that mistake.
The level of violence, the chase and recapture. It sounds like a personal vendetta.
It seems like a bad domestic violence. It was a bad evening out and friends were trying to get away from the husband or the boyfriend. I mean, it just felt like that kind of a scenario. Why else would somebody in one car take somebody out of another car unless they knew him?
The kidnapping victim hadn't even told Jackie her name.
We have this crime scene. We have a victim that's kidnapped. We now have officers and dogs trying to track the car. I mean, there is so much happening for such a little police department all at once.
Before the sole witness can give more details, she's rushed into surgery. The fate of the case hinges on whether Jackie lives or dies.
We had Jackie at the hospital undergoing massive surgeries, being tubed in the side, coming in and out of consciousness, going into cardiac arrest. We think she's gonna die. Now's not a good time to interview her, but there was that sense of urgency, like, well, if I don't do it now, we might not ever get her last words. You're trying to save a life of Jackie Criazzo while at the same time trying to gather as much information to save the life of the person that's kidnapped.
I'm sorry. No, nothing's here.
As an icy winter grips Colorado, Good Samaritan Jackie Criazzo holds the key to identifying a kidnapping victim and her assailant. Rushed to emergency surgery, she manages to tell investigators where she picked up the young woman.
We still don't even know who the victim is because Jackie doesn't know who the victim is in all of this. She never shared her name. So we do have information that there's a car down at the other part of the crime scene. So we send officers down there.
There wasn't anything mechanically wrong with it. The theory is that she somehow was forced to stop.
We run the license plate of that car to figure out who potentially the victim could be that the suspect has taken away.
The car is registered to a man named Casey Bradshaw. Questioned at his home, Bradshaw tells police his 25-year-old wife, Rhonda, drives the car, and she still hasn't come home from work.
The vehicle has been involved in an accident. You don't remember her coming back at all by any chance?
She hasn't been home. I've been worried sick.
Your first contact with someone is very telling, and you want to get their response. What does he think about that it's 8 o'clock in the morning by the time we're making notification and his wife's not home yet? Is he angry? Does he have an idea where she is?
He claims he last saw Rhonda when she left for her job as a cocktail waitress at a mountainside casino. It's a temporary gig. Rhonda dreams of being a cop.
She was earning more money in the evening to start her life, you know. A very typical, driven young female, willing to work the late hours, just trying to make money to buy a home.
But money problems can be a trigger for domestic violence. Though Casey Bradshaw seems concerned, he's not off the hook.
How's the relationship been going since they've been married? Are they in debt? Do they owe money to anybody? Do they do drugs? All of those things are just typical checklist kind of things.
Investigators also check with the casino, which attracts all sorts of characters.
When you're in that first 24 hours and you have a victim who's been kidnapped and you've just now identified who she is,
All right, gentlemen.
you want to think of any connection in her life that could possibly get you to somebody who's associated with her that could help solve the mystery.
None of her co-workers recall any particularly creepy customers that night. When her shift ended at 2 a.m., the hard-working wife and stepmother took a casino bus to her car in the park and ride lot.
We don't have any direct evidence of what actually happened once she got off that casino bus.
Investigators hope Jackie Criazzo can fill in the blanks. She barely survived her ordeal. 3 bullets tore into her. In the face, in the shoulder, and one pierced her spine.
Sir, I'm terribly sorry. It's critical. Unfortunately, she may not be able to walk again.
I've got to do everything you can.
Everything about her life as she knew it was no longer the same.
All because she stopped to help a stranger.
We all hoped that we could be that person. You think, could I have done the same thing Jackie Criazzo did?
Please just come back.
We all hoped that we could have, but really, if we look inside ourselves, most of us probably couldn't have or wouldn't have.
Jackie's able to recognize a photo of Rhonda. She tells police what Rhonda told her.
A sedan bumps her car and causes an accident. She pulls over. It's not a big accident, but there needs to be an exchange of information. The driver of the sedan convinces Rhonda to get in his car because it's snowy and the weather conditions are so poor. From the time the accident occurs and that she gets in the car is when the sexual assault starts taking place.
He drove her to another spot and raped her for 2 hours. Inexplicably, he dropped her back off at her car.
You really don't know what's going on in their head, whether he had done this before and let a victim go and then the victim never testified.
She literally feared for her life that he was going to kill her. And when Jackie Criazzo's car goes by, she sees it as an opportunity to start running in hopes that this car will stop.
Then, the chase, the shooting, the recapture. It doesn't feel like a first-time criminal's work.
This is somebody who's done this before. It really started feeling like more of a serial killer.
Crime scene analysts comb the snowy off-ramp for anything that might lead them to the kidnapper. A dent in the car and footprints in the snow support Jackie's account. To local cops, the tale of terror that starts with a staged fender bender sounds familiar.
The more descriptive they got from witnesses who had seen these events, the more it sounded like Jessica Arredondo.
On a cold November morning in 1988, 21-year-old Jessica Arredondo failed to show up for work.
They called up from work and they asked if she was home. We thought that she had already left. And so we checked her bedroom and saw that her bed hadn't been slept on.
She'd been with her boyfriend the night before, but he claimed he hadn't seen her since she dropped him off at a nightclub.
She was going to drive around a while and then come back and pick him up. She never came back to pick him up.
Investigators wondered if her boyfriend may have been involved.
His proximity to her, his relationship with her, not that it was necessarily negative, but it was close. And that's always a red flag. And the idea that he was dropped off there and she never came back, it just seemed a little unusual.
He was quickly ruled out as a suspect.
He was unusually cooperative. I mean, we really put some heat on that guy. We gave him polygraph tests twice. He passed with flying colors. He became a non-suspect.
Police turned to the community for clues. The night Jessica disappeared, a woman reported hearing a commotion in the street.
She was lying in bed, awake. She heard a minor car accident. She heard multiple men yelling at each other, and then get in a car, and the car drove off with a loud, fast sort of a getaway. And it was clear that that's where Jessica Arredondo had been kidnapped from.
The witness got a brief look at the men.
She saw a light-skinned black male and a white male.
The next day, a couple of kids found discarded clothes and a naked body.
Jessica Arredondo was taken from her car, and her body was found in Estes Park, Colorado, a long ways away from where she was taken in Denver.
As police recovered the victim, they noted footprints in the snow.
What we found out was that there appeared to be two sets of tracks. There were two men involved, and they apparently carried her nude body out of this vehicle, and they carried her up an embankment and threw her over.
Her cause of death was trauma consistent with jumping out of a moving vehicle. Just like Rhonda Bradshaw, Jessica did all she could to escape her attackers.
I cannot understand why anybody would want to hurt her. I just wondered, well, how could anybody do anything like this to such a wonderful person as Jessica?
2 days later, police found Jessica's new Mustang abandoned, just like in Rhonda's case.
She had just gotten it just a few months before, and she even went to the extent of getting a certain license plate that said 88 Pony on it. She was so in love with that car.
The doors were locked and the body dented, like she'd been forced off the road, like Rhonda Bradshaw. Her killers were never caught.
We felt like there were a lot of similarities. The car chase, the abduction from the car, that piqued our interest.
Question is, are the two cases connected?
Jessica Arredondo and Rhonda were similar in appearance, in age, in general location. Serial killers usually have a framework that they work within. And the similarity between Jessica and Rhonda certainly fit that profile. It was part of the connection there.
He found his victim, preyed on it, that was part of the process, part of the game, was the hunt. Potentially even know the person beforehand, maybe not.
If it is the same attacker, he now has Rhonda Bradshaw. And if he hasn't killed her, the Colorado cold just might.
A woman would not likely be able to survive any nights alone out in the Colorado Rockies without adequate shelter, clothing, or any kind of preparedness.
And now, as a wicked winter storm bears down on Colorado, Rhonda's chances of survival grow even slimmer. After a brazen abduction, Colorado police search for 25-year-old Rhonda Bradshaw.
There's an urgency because a young woman was kidnapped and you want to get her back before something else bad happens to her.
A winter storm slows them down. Time is running out.
There's always hope that someone will be found alive when they're missing. Everybody hoped that she would be found alive.
Investigators question Rhonda's husband again, but he has no idea who might have grabbed her.
He was distraught. He was going through some serious denial that, like, it can't be her. The more we talked to him, the more you could just feel that he was very genuine about that. Nothing led us to believe this was any kind of a love triangle.
He's off the suspect list, left only to hope police can find Rhonda alive. Detectives have little to go on. Jackie Criazzo, the lone witness, provides a description of Rhonda's abductor.
It was a pretty generic description. Black male, clean cut, 25 to 30 years of age.
He could be a coworker, a customer from the casino, or a complete stranger. Desperate, authorities retrace their own steps.
We had one detective that didn't come to the call. He had been busy and didn't come out right away. And he's like, oh, I'd like to see the crime scene. And so we're like, you're kidding. Like, where were you 12 hours ago?
Turns out, revisiting the crime scene is a stroke of good luck.
Now it's a new feeling at the crime scene. You have some more information about what you've talked with Jackie about, how she's relayed Rhonda's story. So you're looking at the crime scene different than you were earlier in the morning.
By now, the melting snow reveals a new clue.
We're just kind of looking around, and you hear zzz, zzz. And we're like, what's that? And one of the Adams County SO sheriff's officers finds a pager. Like, wow, if we hadn't come down here to show this latecomer detective the crime scene, would have we all been around her car and being able to hear a pager before the battery died?
There, on the frozen ground, the case suddenly isn't so cold.
When you find new evidence, truly you think to yourself sometimes, it's better to be lucky than good. And it felt lucky. It felt like a huge door opened for us in this case.
Detectives call the last number on the pager and hear a shocking message.
If you find this pager, return it to the Denver Police Department. This pager is the property of the Denver Police Department. There is a reward for returning this pager.
The pager belongs to Denver Police Detective Matthew Kincaid.
I'll be honest with you, as the lead investigator, the lead detective on this, I'm immediately thinking, what was a Denver detective doing at our crime scene? We start going, is a police officer responsible for this crime?
It's unimaginable.
Oh, there's a brotherhood, but when you cross a line like that, that's a serious line. There's no protecting. It's like, if it is this Denver detective, we're taking him down.
A background check makes them worry. Though Kincaid's a 20-year veteran of the force, his personal life troubles investigators.
So when we started doing background checks and figuring out what kind of criminal history that he could potentially have, then we were like, oh my gosh, he shot his wife in the stomach.
Remarkably, she didn't press charges.
We're looking at the shooting, and it's like, the shooting was considered accidental? How does that happen?
Kincaid doesn't fit Jackie Criazzo's description of the rapist as a clean-cut 30-year-old. Could he be protecting someone?
He was an older gentleman, didn't fit the profile, and so right away there was an assumption that it was maybe a relative or somebody closely associated with him.
Police learned Kincaid's nephew, Daniel, shot a man when he was 16. He served just 5 years and is now free.
We're like, okay, this is getting a little bit more serious.
Detective Kincaid also has 2 sons. One of them, Robert Harlan, has a record for assault. He too is free and living in the area.
It's like having a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and they're not even on the table. They're scattered throughout the room, and you gotta go find them and bring them up to the table.
Detectives have to solve it fast. Rhonda might still be at this man's mercy.
If you're the suspect and your victim has escaped once, it's not gonna happen again. The second escape seemed impossible.
Police in Colorado race against time to catch a violent sexual predator. They have a chilling suspicion Rhonda Bradshaw isn't his first victim.
By the way he did this, it probably wasn't the first time that he did it. He probably watched her, studied her, and this particular woman fit his profile.
Police suspect he also murdered Jessica Arredondo 6 years earlier.
The similarities are that Jessica Arredondo and Rhonda were both in their cars and were somehow followed and then run off the road.
A Denver police detective's pager found near Rhonda's car provides an unsettling clue. The detective's nephew, Daniel, did time for a fatal shooting, and his son, Robert Harlan, has a record for assault. When the news reports a description of the abductor's car, the calls start coming in, implicating the son.
On the tip line, we were getting calls. The people were saying, "We believe this is Robert Harlan, his car matches." So now we're getting calls on the tip line that are matching the information that we have from the pager, and he fits the age description.
He wasn't a guy who would just fade into the woodwork. I mean, he drove a car where the license plate said cha-ching. If I saw that on the highway, I'd remember it, and people did.
Investigators take a closer look at Harlan.
He was a very social person, liked to go to the bars, very active with women. He was kind of a ladies' man.
In April 1991, a young woman reported that while she was on a date with Harlan at his house, he raped her. He threatened to kill her if she ever told anyone.
You sinner!
His own dad arrested him for sexual assault, so his dad was trying to face up to this demon child.
After a mistrial, the woman refused to testify against Robert Harlan a second time. He avoided jail when a judge gave him 2 years probation and ordered him to complete a sex offender program.
This is a textbook case of a guy who just was given every chance in the world. He thought that he'd been let off so many times that he wasn't gonna have to pay for this one.
Thornton officers discover that Harlan and murder victim Jessica Arredondo worked at the same company when Jessica disappeared.
Was a gigantic red flag, especially with Robert Harlan working security there. And then we were able to find a witness that gave us a composite sketch of someone that was driving in pursuit of Jessica Arredondo the evening she disappeared. And that person looked like Robert Harlan.
Detectives demand the company turn over his personnel files.
I'm expecting to get some manila envelopes, and they bring out boxes of complaints against Robert Harlan. And I remember just being shocked and thinking, this is remarkable. How many complaints did they have about sexual harassment on this guy that didn't make it to a police department?
authorities visit Jackie Criazzo in the hospital. She's the one person who might positively ID their new prime suspect. This moment is the reason she fought so hard to stay alive.
Take your time looking at him. When I'm interviewing Jackie, she says to me, she goes, I didn't have to come back. And I just kind of look at her and she goes, when I was in the emergency room, there was a white light. And I heard a voice saying, you can come to the white light or you can go back. And she said, and I knew right then and there that I knew who this person was and I had to come back because I could tell who this person was.
That's the guy. I know this is him, this is him.
There was not a question in her mind. She's like, absolutely positive, that's your guy.
It was Robert Harlan's voice on the pager message.
Robert put the message on and said, call his dad, knowing that if someone found it and it was a Denver detectives, that it would be more sense of urgency to return it. When Robert Harlan recognized he no longer had his pager, he probably realized, uh-oh, there's a big piece of evidence out there if it's left at the crime scene. And it was left at the crime scene.
That's the good news. The bad news comes right on its tail. Road workers in nearby Aurora find bloody clothes beneath an overpass. They match what Rhonda wore the night she disappeared.
After the viciousness of her attack, she's not going to do well out in the wilderness. The exposure and the elements are likely to get her.
Bloodhounds scour the frozen culverts and off-ramps. One suddenly sounds an alert.
We found a bullet and we found her blood. We didn't know where the wound was at that time, so that was certainly a concern to us.
Without a body, there's no proof Rhonda is dead. With renewed urgency, police close in on Robert Harlan's home. Braced for battle, and they hope, a rescue.
Robert Harlan, this is the police. We have a warrant for your arrest. Open the door. Robert Harlan, we have a warrant for your arrest. Open the door. This is the police.
Police in Colorado close in on Robert Harlan, suspected of snatching Rhonda Bradshaw and murdering Jessica Arredondo.
It's early in the morning, and we don't have a clue how he's going to respond. So we're ready with the entry team.
Before they went in, they did the flash grenades. They knew he was armed, and they took all the precautions.
In the end, he surprises everyone by surrendering quietly.
Robert Harlan was the son of a detective with the Denver Police Department. And as such, he probably knew more about evidence collection, and how to hide evidence than most people. He was a more daunting suspect than most.
Even so, evidence techs collect a cache of ammunition, sex aids, porn magazines, and a crack pipe. What they don't find is Rhonda.
There was blood evidence in the car. He had tried to clean it. There was some on the door frame where Jackie had described that he drug her back and put her into the back seat of the car.
They also find a baseball bat and crowbar, a Halloween mask, and a stash of condoms, a veritable rapist's toolkit. They note his car's body damage.
It was amazing to watch what they could do, and the fact that they diverted through a car wash, and that in the drain of the car wash in the stall where the dogs hit on, that we found evidence of her blood.
That dog didn't just stop at the car wash. I can remember it as clear as day. His ears were flapping. He's walking down city streets and highways in the middle of the day, places where it had rained, and he could still smell her scent. Tracked it 11 miles all the way to the suspect's house.
Police still have no body. No proof that Rhonda is dead.
With all the blood in the trunk and finding the bullet, we thought that Rhonda was, injured very severely and didn't know where she was.
Maybe she's dead, maybe not. Either way, we gotta find her.
Expect me to help you with that? I don't know anything.
Where is she?
I don't know anything about it.
Tell us what you know.
Went over to my aunt's house, had a couple drinks.
Harlan plays dumb. First saying he passed out at his aunt's home that night after a drinking binge. Then claiming he had a rendezvous with his estranged wife.
Let's see, first you said you didn't go anywhere.
I might have been the night before.
So now you went and saw your wife.
He was gonna make you work for what he had.
How long were you there?
This was calculated. This was manipulative. This was controlling. This was about power. And he felt he had it.
This chick, man.
After hours of interrogation, he finally admits he had seen the victim the night she disappeared.
She's trying to buy some drugs. She's got a bad habit.
He said he had arranged to meet Rhonda and sell her $500 worth of cocaine, and they had in fact partied together and done the cocaine, and when he left her, she was alive.
Police believe he's just trying to explain away evidence and witness statements.
There's still an urgency, and guys are working around the clock on it. And they can't let that go because, that's the key to get her alive.
The district attorney charges Robert Harlan with 8 felony counts, including first-degree murder.
We figured we might never find her body, but we certainly had enough indication that she was dead and where she had died, that it was worth taking the chance to file a case against him. We felt that, we're not gonna let this guy go.
Harlan stonewalls. Without a body, a conviction will be difficult. The search continues. Then, detectives get crucial pieces of evidence from an unlikely source, Harlan's own father.
His father hands over a bag of evidence. It's the gun, it's a cell phone, it's clothing. It's critical pieces of evidence that later down the road all have Rhonda's DNA on them. I don't know if it's the father in him or the cop in him that has to recognize no one else should get hurt at the hands of his son. I guess when you finally have the bag full of evidence in your hands, what do you do with it? You either become a co-conspirator and part of the crime, or you report the crime.
When he was asked about that, he said, I've just got to be honest. I've lived my life honestly, and I'm not going to stop doing it now. I've just got to do the right thing and let the consequences fall where they may. Basically, that was what he said about turning those things in to his boss.
Rhonda's horrible plight captures the public's sympathy.
Five days went by, and we knew that searchers were out there not looking for someone who was alive, but looking for a body.
At last, she's found. Beaten and shot 3 times. Defensive wounds on her hands prove the young woman who always wanted to be a cop didn't go down without a fight.
She fought to the end for her survival, hoping for another opportunity to escape.
She probably would have made a great cop, you know, really brave. You know, seemed like she was a kind of a warrior type. Probably would have done a good job.
Toxicology proves Robert Harlan lied about Rhonda doing cocaine with him.
She had minimal alcohol in her blood. She had no drugs of any kind, no cocaine, nothing. His statement was BS, and just designed to exculpate him as much as he could.
Detectives lift Harlan's fingerprints from Rhonda's wallet. The 9mm turned in by his father matches slugs pulled from Jackie Criazzo's car.
We knew this was a death penalty case. Not all murders are. Not all murderers cry out to look the devil in the eye. Robert Harlan is one of those guys.
On June 1st, 1995, defense attorneys shocked the court by admitting their client did kill Rhonda Bradshaw. They argue it was an impulsive afterthought, not premeditated murder.
It became obvious that Robert had some issues, particularly with women. There were any number of women that lodged complaints against Robert Harlan for sexual harassment. There were sexual assaults. That's who he was. That's who he was. He was a predator.
He was getting by with quite a bit because he was able to put on a good face, but there was evil underneath. And he seemed to have no remorse whatsoever.
The prosecution's key witness is Jackie Criazzo. She tells the jury about being chased down and shot, and about Harlan recapturing Rhonda.
You got the feeling when all the evidence started coming together that this was premeditated and that he knew exactly what he was doing.
Most heroes are reluctant to shine the light upon themselves, but Jackie deserves the light. She's a role model. I have a lot of admiration for Jackie Criazzo.
What I would like to know is why. Why did it have to turn out this way? Why did he have to do what he did? And really, he has no answer. He has no answer, at least that would satisfy me.
We, the jury, unanimously find beyond a reasonable doubt death is the appropriate punishment in this case.
The jury convicts Robert Harlan on all charges, delivering a death sentence for Rhonda's murder and 144 years for the attempted murder of Jackie Criazzo. Nearly 10 years later, an appellate court reduces his sentence to life without the possibility of parole.
I still think Robert Harlan should look the devil in the eye, and eventually he will. It's life in prison, it's natural life, so he'll die in prison. But he should have received the ultimate sanction.
Larimer County investigators hope to one day deliver justice for Jessica Arredondo.
I'm absolutely convinced that Robert Harlan is involved in killing and disposing of the body of Jessica Arredondo.
Police still don't know who the second man was in that crime.
And I believe there's a good chance that Robert Harlan could be charged with other homicides, potentially, especially with the DNA potential that exists now that did not exist then.
He was a predator from early on, and he turned from being a sexual predator into being a homicidal sexual predator.
A predator who ripped Rhonda Bradshaw away from her family.
This beautiful young woman, you know, she still had her life ahead of her. She was a mom, she had kids, she wanted to serve, and she never got that chance.
The wilds of Alaska, vast, untamed, and dangerous. A place where predators roam and people vanish at an eerily high rate.
There are so many different ways to disappear up here, whether it's by accident or just wanting to disappear on your own.
Did a famous Alaskan renegade disappear by accident or on purpose?
Alaska is probably the easiest place in the world to hide a body.
Really was a Jimmy Hoffa case in a way. It was a mystery.
There was no sign of a struggle. Nothing appeared to be out of place.
The hardest thing was not knowing what happened to him.
The theory of murder was the highest on the list, and the only question was, who was it that wanted to bring him harm?
Fairbanks, Alaska. Civilization's last outpost before the vast Yukon Territory.
After Fairbanks, it's wilderness. You head north from Fairbanks, there's nothing else.
It's Alaska at its wildest, with 3 months of dark, deathly cold winter, where temperatures plunge to 80 below.
Fairbanks is its own animal. It was founded on gold mining, and the people up there have a reputation for being a little bit more independent, a little bit more rebellious than the rest of Alaska, and that's saying a lot.
On June 1st, 1993, state troopers get called to a remote Fairbanks cabin by a close friend and political ally of a resident named Joe Vogler.
Joe in days hadn't spoken to him.
He says he's worried. He hasn't heard from Joe in a couple of days.
And I came up here and the doors are all locked and his truck's out there.
Joe's truck is parked outside and the house is locked.
And stuff looks really suspicious around the back door. Can I show you that?
Except for one door secured from the outside.
I don't recall anything like that.
Inside, no sign of Joe. It doesn't look like there was any struggle, but something's definitely wrong.
There was copious amounts of dog feces all over the living room and the kitchen.
Man, this doesn't look good to me.
And same with the goose. The goose always had fresh water in the overnight box, but that water was gone.
Joe would not have left those dogs. I mean, he wouldn't put a dog out in the cold. Joe Vogler told me once, he said, if there's a heaven and all of my dogs are not there, it's no heaven at all. That was his belief. That's how he felt about his dogs.
Joe left his wallet and heart medicine, suggesting he didn't expect to be gone long.
He was known to carry a pistol. It was missing. I couldn't find it in the house. Everything's still a question. Nothing's carved in stone at this point, but we're interviewing witnesses.
His friend claims he has no idea where Joe is. He says he last spoke to him on the phone 2 days earlier. Their conversation had been cut short by someone coming by the cabin.
Joe said he needed to answer the door, and that was the last he heard from him.
So, was this mysterious caller responsible for Joe's disappearance? Police don't know, but one thing's for sure. This is no ordinary missing person case. Troopers know all about Joe Vogler. He was lured to the rugged outback in 1942, even before Alaska became a state.
The story is he got run out of Texas for calling Roosevelt a no-goods communist son of a bitch. that set the Texans off, I guess. When he got here, it was like he'd found a diamond in the North. He loved the freedom and the liberties and the core of the people that lived here.
He was a successful gold miner and politician.
To Alaska!
In the 1950s, as many worked for Alaskan statehood, Joe fought against it, claiming the U.S. government just wanted to steal resources.
Well, Joe certainly was not opposed to oil development. However, he was certainly opposed to Alaska not getting its share. There were numerous periods in our history where certain pieces of legislation were passed that reduced the taxes upon the oil companies, and Joe was generally opposed to that for very straightforward reasons. He wanted more for Alaskans. So he opposed the oil industry because its interests are naturally in opposition to Alaska in terms of trying to get more for itself, meaning less for Alaska.
There's no compromise. The moment you start compromising, well, they're just going to keep backing you up. They get their foot in the door. It's like an elephant, and pretty soon the elephant's in and you're out.
Alaska's got some real legitimate beefs about how she even got in the Union. I've seen the Joe taught this. He showed people the documents. And in Alaska's statehood election was absolutely in violation of international law and treaty. Hands down. A rigged election. I can understand why these half a dozen businessmen made their way to Washington, D.C. to plead their case for statehood. But the key word there is they were businessmen. Their focus was on dollars and property. And we see where that's led us in the United States of America today.
After Alaska joined the Union in 1959, he founded the Alaskan Independence Party to overturn the move. His fiery spirit drew both enemies and followers.
If he had been alive during the Revolution, he would have been one of the founding fathers. His personality, in one word, was determined.
Colleagues, friends, supporters.
When Joe was right, and he was right an awful lot of the time, he was determined to have it the right way.
Of my visit to the United Nations. Yes, sir. That's right.
Joe kept up the fight for decades, including several runs for governor.
Alaskan independence. Right. Well done. For years, the federal government has
He gained the world's attention.
And we haven't seen a dime. And that is going to change. We've had enough.
And in early 1993, was invited to address the United Nations about Alaskan independence. But just 1 week before he's scheduled to speak at the UN, he disappears.
It really did appear first that he just wandered off because there was no sign of a struggle, there was no blood, and there were only 3 things missing. Joe himself, his weapon, and his fedora, that was his trademark.
Troopers check with other friends and learn no one has seen him in the last 2 days. Some speculate he might have gone out for a walk and lost his bearings.
Yeah, if Joe had to just take off into the wilderness, especially ill-equipped, it'd be difficult to survive. He was a little bit older, though he had some skills. Alaska's still a really tough mistress, and north of Fairbanks is far worse.
A police helicopter checks a 2-mile radius around the cabin, while volunteers on foot and horseback scour the thick brush on Joe's land.
Anything?
Once the word got out, there's searchers and there's troopers and search dogs and all sorts of people.
As worry mounts, authorities search the twisting darkness of old mine shafts on Joe's property.
Alaska is also rife with hard rock mines, and maybe he was exploring for gold around an old mine shaft or something. He could have easily fallen in.
His close friends don't think it was this sort of accident.
He was not a doddering old fool wandering off in the wilderness. or just walking off and never coming back. Well, even if he's going to go for a walk, Harley took at least 1 or 2 of the dogs with him.
After a complete search of Joe's land, there's no sign of Alaska's most infamous politician.
He was not there. I knew that. I was part of the search myself. We have the rest of Alaska to look at.
This wasn't just anybody going missing. This was Joe Vogler. He was our most vociferous, most loud, most flamboyant politician we've had. And so when he disappeared, it was like the whole state was mining for him.
Some wonder if Joe had been overcome by grief. His wife, Doris, died of cancer just a year ago. The couple had been incredibly close.
She and he were like two sides of a coin. She absolutely adored him. When she'd look at him, her face would change. You could see how much she loved him. And it was mutual. He was devastated at her loss. It just killed him. It really did. The light that she put in his eyes was out.
Had Joe gone to visit her remote grave deep in the Yukon Territory? And once there, had his grief made him choose to join Doris on the other side? Or is it something more malevolent? All anyone really knows is that Alaska's political firebrand left his cabin and vanished.
Joe is, in fact, out here in the woods, whether he walked out there because he was going on a walk or someone marched him out there, and we have to expand our investigation to every possibility.
It really was almost like a Jimmy Hoffa case in a way, where they knew he was gone. They knew, obviously, it probably wasn't a very good outcome, but they still never had a body. And so it was a mystery.
State troopers have an Alaska-sized mystery on their hands. When Joe Vogler, the founder of the Alaskan Independence Party, vanishes, theories abound. Had he wandered off or gone to grieve at his wife's grave? The story leads newscasts across Alaska.
This is not a case of grabbing at straws. This is a case of trying to find Joe Vogler, and this whole state is asking where he is.
Most of the searchers are looking for a live Joe Vogler, but we're also inclined to think that we might find his body out there. But needless to say, we're looking for Joe.
As the search expands, troopers check flights out of Fairbanks. They find no record Joe skipped town, and no sign he'd been to visit his wife's grave.
He was heartbroken at the loss of her, but he was healing. He'd come through it. It was a hard trail for him to travel, but he'd come through it. That man would never even, I think, consider the thought of taking his own life. He'd never kill himself. That's a crock of hooey.
No bank activity, no phone calls. After 5 days, authorities switch their search from rescue to recovery. But chances of finding a body are slim.
A lot of animals in Alaska don't have the same fear or repulsion of man that they do in the lower 48. You get out far enough where the animals have little exposure to man, they'll eat a body just as much as anything else. By the time they're done, you won't see any sign of anything.
New theories start to surface. Maybe the gold miner was kidnapped.
There was kind of a commonly held belief among some people that Joe had a lot of money, that he had money stashed, that he had gold stashed.
We waited for any kind of notification. A ransom call would have been a welcomed call, because You can ask for proof of life.
Or maybe he'd been silenced by a political enemy.
He was pretty fiery. When he said, "I'm not a damned American," you know, that can fire up some anger.
Members of Joe's party cover the state with "Where's Joe" signs.
It was a shot in the arm to maybe, trigger something where maybe somebody saw something.
Some in the party don't think troopers are doing enough.
There's nothing at this point in time we've recovered that indicates foul play at all.
If it had been the leader of the Republican Party or the Democratic Party just up and disappeared, you think there would have been maybe a little bit of an investigation?
Joe's supporters say Joe had been getting vague threats from anonymous callers recently.
He poo-pooed a lot of it, but he has been receiving threats for a goodly many years because of his position and his opinions on things.
They worry now the threats have become real, and they hire a private investigator.
We all kicked in about $1,000 to get it started. We felt immediately, when we knew the facts, that the house was empty except for the dogs, and there was no sign of Joe or his hat. Something was amiss.
From the beginning, supporters wondered how someone could take Joe without tangling with his very protective dogs.
I'm not a detective. I just know that things work the way they work and that those dogs were off. They had to have been drugged, or they'd be dead because they'd have been fighting over who was going to hurt Joe. They'd have protected him, period. So they had to have been knocked out.
They have the dogs tested for sedatives. Now, they await the results. The PI makes a more immediate discovery when he searches Joe's home. A .22 caliber shell casing on the floor near the sink.
My first thought of it is, where's the gun? What did that come out of? Why aren't there any holes anywhere? There's no bullet holes in that house. Maybe it was a plant, was one of the thoughts that we mumbled around.
The PI turns the casing over to police. But party members want to know how the cops missed it in the first place. The mysterious casing gives Joe's supporters more reason to distrust the authorities' dedication to finding Joe.
I'd say the theory of murder was the highest on the list of any sensible person who knew Joe and the situation. The only question was, who was it that wanted to bring him harm?
The party's Where's Joe campaign uncovers plenty of suspects for troopers to sift through.
And we're getting tons of calls, leads, some of them pretty far-fetched, but a lot of them having to do with the government did this to Joe. Informants saying that they saw the government vehicle following Joe Vogler's vehicle. We have to follow up on all this.
Had the U.S. government finally had enough of Joe and gotten rid of him?
A government that can conspire to enter our nation into a war and kill millions of people certainly can be expected to kill one person with a lot less thought.
He would butt heads with the government about his many mining claims, and he and the Bureau of Land Management were always clashing together.
It's no secret, Joe Vogler deeply distrusted the feds. Friends recall one clash in the summer of 1984 that nearly became a gun battle. Joe and his crew drove their heavy equipment across federal land toward one of his private mining claims along Woodchopper Creek outside Fairbanks. A helicopter full of park rangers charged with protecting the land swooped in.
They were armed with automatic rifles, and he was almost certain they were going to take him out.
We have a court injunction for you to get off the property.
The rangers served Joe with an injunction, literally stopping him in his tracks. They claimed his equipment was damaging the federally owned wildlife preserve.
Clearly, when you have a trillion-dollar entity with tens of thousands of people working in its bureaucracies versus one lonely miner in the hinterlands of Alaska, it is a David versus Goliath situation.
No shots were fired that day. Joe believed he was targeted because he was so vocal about Alaskan independence and was gaining followers.
If you can demonstrate to people that they actually have the right to vote for independence and legal and legitimate, peaceful means of separating from the United States, now that is a very dangerous thing. That's actually more dangerous than some nutball wishing for a violent revolution.
Joe's political supporters finally get evidence of foul play when lab results prove Joe's most aggressive dog had been sedated the day he disappeared.
Somehow, somebody, somewhere along the line, drugged that youngest dog so it wouldn't be a problem, is what I'm thinking.
The deepening mystery draws lots of news coverage.
I think that there is a great possibility that this is a political assassination.
If Joe has been killed, justice must be served.
There's been no ransom notes and no requests for any ransom, no contact from anyone like that. I think Mr. Vogler was murdered, and one thing we'd like to do is to find his body. I look at everything, every lead, everything that's dangled in front of me. We have to eliminate that possibility as best we can. I don't care who did it. I'm going to find out who did it, and I'm going to arrest them and convict them at trial.
After the disappearance of political activist Joe Vogler, Alaska state troopers believe he's been killed. But they have no real suspects and no body.
Alaska's the perfect place to hide a body. There are millions and millions and millions of places you can hide people. If he wanted to put them under a rock, put them in a river, at the bottom of a lake, lay them out in the tundra, something's going to eat them.
As the weather warms, the search widens, with troopers and Joe's political party working with volunteers across the state.
We're doing these other efforts, trying to get the public involved in trying to find the body. Where's Joe?
Vogler left behind his beloved dogs, reason enough for his friends to believe he didn't just walk off.
We're certainly going under the impression that he's dead, that he'd been murdered.
One of his dogs had been sedated. Many in Joe's party think it must have been an insider who knew the dogs well enough to get close. Maybe the political ally who reported him missing.
People accused him of just sort of hanging on to Joe for Joe's name and his political connections.
His friend told police he worried when Joe cut their phone call short to answer the door. Yet he waited 2 days to report him missing.
The doors are all locked and his truck's out there. Where would he go without his truck?
To Alaska!
From the early years, he was by Joe's side as the Independence Party grew.
This is how we're gonna change it!
What we need is a governor with enough guts in plain English language to stand up to the federal government and say, gentlemen, you've sold us out. You've shorted us. You've short-circuited us. You've lied to us. You've done everything immorally to keep Alaska as a colony. Heaven help him if I get the opportunity as governor.
One of the times Joe ran for governor, promising a push for independence, his friend joined his ticket as candidate for lieutenant governor.
They were quite the team. It really did establish a presence of the Alaskan Independence Party. It was not a recognized party before, but they garnered so much support during their race that it was then a recognized party in the state of Alaska.
During the campaign, Joe's running mate took out a series of newspaper ads, portraying himself as a fighter.
Sure, he's got a picture of him with a baseball bat. He's gonna knock him out of office or whatever. He's gonna clean him up or whatever, however it went.
Now some wonder about the ad's violent undertones. They note Joe's late wife, Doris, was always suspicious of his friend hanging around Joe.
They were like fire and water. They did not get along one bit. I know eventually she ran him off, and he did not come back until after Doris died. It was within weeks of her death that he showed up.
Just days after he came back into the picture, some of Joe's equipment was vandalized. Soon after, he moved on to Joe's property as his watchman.
It was very clear that he was, over a period of time, was nuzzling up to Joe, trying to get into his good graces, trying to be influential in Joe's life, particularly after Joe's wife had died.
Many believe his ambitions reached beyond their political partnership.
He had made it known that he believed that he was Joe's heir, all of which seemed to make me more concerned that he may have had something to do with it.
Troopers also have him on their radar.
He dangled out there because he's the one that made the initial missing person complaint.
Killers are often the ones who call the cops first. He denies he had anything to do with Joe's disappearance. And there's no evidence tying him to any wrongdoing, especially with no body or crime scene. If he didn't snatch Joe away, had it been someone more powerful? Someone higher up in the state or federal government?
Joe had enemies. His politics were loud, and people suspected that somebody was trying to shut him down.
3 years before Joe vanished, he helped Wally Hickel run for governor under the AIP banner. He won, the party's biggest achievement. Once in office, Joe didn't think Wally pushed hard enough for independence.
Joe was of the mind, and I remember him saying it, he was going down to Juneau to, quote, see who got to Wally, because he figured somebody got to him.
Joe left the governor's mansion without answers and just as frustrated. He believed his best shot was his meeting with the United Nations, where he planned to make a bid for return to self-government. 1 week later, Joe Vogler went missing, and months have gone by with no sign of him.
How did he die? Was he shot twice? Was he bombed over the head? Was he drugged? Was he asphyxiated? Just exactly how did he die?
Well, it's on the talk shows like Dexter said there and everything, and everybody's talking about it. Of course, everybody's had an opinion or an idea of what's happened all along, you know.
The timing convinces his followers that whomever took him out was someone with access, someone who stood to gain power, or someone who desperately wanted to keep it at any cost.
You're done talking.
No one has seen Joe Vogler in about a year when he was discovered missing from his Fairbanks home. Search parties combed the area, but when troopers hit a wall, the search stopped. Now there's talk of reforming the search in Nenana, but this time investigators won't begin the search until they know for sure they'll stop when Vogler is found.
The biggest thing, of course, is to find Mr. Vogler's body. Not only for the family, but certainly for our case.
Joe Vogler epitomized the perfect politician for Alaska. He was a rebel. He was vocal. He didn't have this level of sophistication that most politicians from the lower 48 have, and he spoke his mind. We loved him.
State troopers are no closer to finding any evidence or a body.
Trying to find Joe's body, it'd be like trying to find a stash of gold. It'd be like a needle in a haystack.
Well, how do you get rid of a body in Alaska? People speculated of, well, fish food, chipper shredder, all this horrific thoughts and ideas going on that people would bring to you. People can disappear here, obviously, relatively easy.
Troopers and Joe's party members refuse to give up the search. As the Where's Joe campaign expands, searchers post new placards to mark cleared areas.
I also was wondering, where's Joe? I want to know where Joe is. I want to find his body. I need that body. I can prosecute someone later on for murder without a body, but I need evidence.
Some in Joe's party think the man who reported him missing might have been involved. Yet it's only an idle rumor, backed by no evidence whatsoever, and troopers do not consider him a suspect.
He was trying to run his own political campaigns, but he had no motive. He was not a killer. Not at all.
The frustrating case finally begins to break open when a tipster contacts the Alaskan Independence Party.
But he called, said, hey, this guy borrowed my truck to go up to Fairbanks. It comes back, it's repainted. There's a bullet hole in the door.
This happened about the time Joe Vogler disappeared from Fairbanks. But the caller hadn't thought there was a connection until someone pointed out the coincidence. The party's private investigator follows up.
I searched the truck and found a handwritten map to Joe's house.
Troopers conduct their own search, turning up a day planner with names and code words.
One was Joe, $ gold. Well, that certainly fit Joe Vogler, that he would have money around and could very possibly have a lot of gold around.
The caller says the man who borrowed the truck is Manfred West. It's a name familiar to troopers.
We always knew him as somewhat of he's a two-bit crook. He's a thief.
West made his way to Alaska in 1980 after trouble with the law in the lower 48. Joe Vogler was one of the first people he met. A cartoonist, West painted campaign signs for Joe and his running mate.
He liked to paint and draw things, and he was called Cartoon Freddy. That was his moniker. We never saw him as one who would murder, but one never knows. Stranger things happen under the midnight sun. So our investigation certainly focused on Fred West at that point.
Checking records, police learn West is supposed to be in jail for violating probation on a charge of writing fraudulent checks.
We thought he was safely tucked away in jail. Except that there came a time when I received a call from a confidential informant saying, you know Freddie's not in jail anymore, don't you? I said, what?
It turns out West was in a minimum security unit and simply walked away weeks earlier. Now, police are on the hunt for two missing men, Joe Vogler and Manfred West. They believe West will lead them to Joe, but he's long gone. He could be anywhere, concealed by a sprawling wilderness that offers the perfect place to disappear.
North of Fairbanks, it's miles and miles and miles of rolling tundra. It's a lot of craggy mountains and creeks and rivers. It's deep, it's dark, it's dense. It's a perfect place for somebody to hide out. It's a perfect place for people with nefarious intent to commit crimes.
We're using our resources to find Fred West. We were flabbergasted, but he had taken off.
Troopers put out an APB, check plane and train passenger lists. and start working their confidential informants in Alaska's criminal underworld. After 8 tense days, an informant contacts police. He tells them about a cabin he thinks West is hiding in. Troopers surround the place. West spots them.
Then he started waving guns in the window, I think a rifle and a pistol, and now we have a standoff. You know, now we're in a tough situation.
What? This is Sergeant McCann.
I said, why did this thing happen between you and Joe? What caused it? You know, and he admits, he says he's a petty thief, piece of garbage. But he turned murderer that day.
He won't say where Joe's body is, and vows he won't be taken alive.
It's all over, man. I ain't coming out alive. I got a living room full of dynamite. I'm dead.
Some of my troopers, they saw smoke. It went from smoke to flames. These guys think of pretty bizarre things when they're just trapped animals.
As the dry Alaskan air fans the flames, Sergeant McCann struggles to convince West his life is worth living.
And when he got back on the phone, I said, what are you doing, Freddie? And he says, it's all over. He said there was explosives there and everything, and it's going to go up, and I'm going with it. And, you know, I actually pleaded with him not to do that. Don't do this, Freddie. You don't need to kill yourself. Come on out.
For more than 3 hours, Alaska state troopers plead with Manfred West to give himself up.
Freddie, we know what happened between you and Joe.
I was supposed to get plastic C4 and didn't have any when I went down there. That's what started this whole damn thing.
Did you shoot him? Tell me what happened. Freddie, talk to me. Freddie, we don't need to do this. We don't need to. We can talk about this.
West chooses to go down in flames.
Get up, blow!
Things were exploding, propane bottles and propane tanks and ammunition and all kinds of stuff.
As fire engulfs the cabin, West comes to the door again.
Now, picture this, it's this orange ball. I mean, it's burning down, and we thought, oh, he's gonna try and make his way out of the back of the house. And we got guys with machine guns waiting to see what happens. But he went back into the fire. Then it was crackle, crackle, and the phone went dead. And the whole place was orange. It was just totally engulfed.
When the smoke clears and cinders cool, detectives search the rubble for West's remains.
It's all smoke and ruins. And the SWAT guys come in and they approached carefully, and we found him.
Miraculously, he's alive. Barely.
I never had anything like that before. Almost comical. That, oh, he's dead. Oh, no, he lives. Oh, no, he's dead. Oh, no, he lives. You know, and then I would let the place burn all the way down. And then put the 2,000 gallons of water on it. And they bring him out on a gurney. They say he's gonna die at any moment. And then he doesn't.
As he's rushed to the hospital, troopers search the cabin for Joe Vogler's remains, but come up empty. This isn't the first time the deadly flames of suspicion have touched Manfred West. Troopers learn that just a year earlier, he supposedly stumbled upon human remains wrapped in a tarp in a burned-out cabin in Fairbanks.
In his thieving ways, this place had burned down, and he went over there looking for things that he could salvage. and he found what he thought was the remains of a person.
The victim is identified as a local woman, missing for just under a year. Troopers could never connect West to her death. After a lengthy hospital stay, West gets handed over to Alaska State Troopers. They charge him with the murder of Joe Vogler.
Then why don't you tell me the truth?
West agrees to talk. He says he went to Joe's home that day to sell C4 explosives.
I went up there to sell him some C4 explosives. He came out, he seen me, and he got furious. I mean furious.
Joe had occasionally loaned Fred money and perhaps had him do work, so Joe trusted him.
Yet, for some reason, West claims this time Joe came outside and told him to get lost.
Hey man, I got dynamite.
They argued.
I'm not buying any dynamite from you.
He says Joe got furious and fired one warning shot in the air.
Future reference.
A second into the truck. After all the political intrigue, turns out it was just a brash decision by a petty criminal that brought down one of the state's larger-than-life characters. Instead of feeling remorse, West seems to savor the notoriety the killing brings him. He refuses to tell troopers where he buried Joe Vogler's body. But he can't keep his mouth shut behind bars. He brags to a cellmate about ditching the body.
The informant, he had a makeshift little map, but it wasn't a big X telling me exactly where, but it would probably be up on this little hillside off this little trail there.
That man guides troopers to a snow-covered area 30 miles outside of Fairbanks. The earth on the unmarked grave is undisturbed.
The gravesite is tucked away in the woods 25 miles out of Fairbanks. Just off of Chena Hot Springs Road, a dog sniffed out the site after a tip sent searchers to the area.
Fred West had indicated to me on the telephone in his confession that he had wrapped Joe in a blue tarp. I really wanted to see blue tarp first, and then there it was.
Wrapped inside, the remains of Joe Vogler.
The remains were pulled from the cold earth after over an hour of digging, under 3 feet of dirt and wrapped tightly in a blue tarp with duct tape.
He always said he would not be buried on American soil. He was an Alaskan, but not an American, and he wanted to be buried in Canada. And unfortunately, that's where his body was found, in a very shallow grave in Alaska.
His gun was never found. That Derringer's, as far as I know, has never been found. And his hat. If those two ain't trophies for some twisted, sick murderer, I don't know what is.
Prosecutors contend the career criminal skipped out on the court-ordered treatment program, but couldn't support himself. He figured he could finance a new life by robbing Joe Vogler.
Fred had flown up to Alaska with the murder in mind. Pretty clear from, in retrospect, that he had tried a disguise and had borrowed a truck and had target practice with a .22 the day before.
Because Joe Vogler could identify West, he had to kill him after the robbery. Afterward, he feared someone saw him, so he didn't ransack the house, and he painted the truck he used. Concerned a jury won't convict West for first-degree murder, the DA offers him a deal. Manfred West agrees to plead to second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. He gets 80 years. To Joe's staunch supporters, the story still doesn't add up.
He returns to Oklahoma, he comes back, arranges to borrow a truck, goes to Fairbanks, does what he did, paints the truck, brings it back to Anchorage, returns to Oklahoma. This is an awful lot for a guy that doesn't have any money. So in that sense, yeah, it's suspicious.
Many are convinced he didn't act alone.
Basically just a really fringe character, kind of a petty criminal. How does a guy like Fred West pull off a crime that was a pretty darn good crime as far as not leaving a trace, planning, and so forth?
Joe's political ally, the man who discovered him missing, was completely exonerated by police. Suspicion still swirls among some members of Joe's party.
If Joe got off a shot, Fred would be dead, in my thinking. Now, if Joe put that hole in the door of the truck that Fred was driving and didn't hit Fred, and Fred had some help, maybe they were able to subdue Joe and maybe take him elsewhere. All these little things, you want to start discarding them, but how can you?
There's no doubt in my mind that Fred West thought Joe had substantial amounts of gold stashed on his property. I just have this nagging belief that someone else was in collusion with Fred.
The fight for Alaska's independence lost its driving force with the death of Joe Vogler, though many are still loyal to his cause.
Joe was right. Anybody that knows Joe knows damn good and well he was right.
Except perhaps about one thing.
He really thought that the federal government was his biggest enemy. He didn't see that there was actually some even more close to home.